Welcome to Vader TV, the site on innovation and innovators. I'm Bambi Francisco. Opinionated people. You can't live with them, and today you definitely can't live without them, especially if you're Topix. Well, joining me to talk about Topix is CEO and founder Chris Tolles.
Hey there.
Chris, thanks for joining us. 60% of the content on Topix is generated by users.
Yep.
What kind of content is that?
You know, it started off primarily being reactions to news stories that we've aggregated on the site. People came to us and just kept on pushing us to take in their view of a story, which was sort of surprising us. Eventually, it was like, all right, we'll put on comments. And now, actually, increasingly, it's people actually coming in from their town or a topic they care about and actually posting original commentary on the things that they care about, whether it's a trailer park in South Dakota that's kind of dirty and they want it cleaned up, or whether it's a shooting in the Sunset District here in San Francisco. People are coming on and actually putting in comments about the places or the things that they care about.
What kind of news is popular on the site? Is this gossip news, like what's happening at the drive-in?
I think that is a lot of it. I think that there's several different places where we get a lot of commentary. There is a whole lot of commentary on what you'd expect, like Hollywood celebrities and things like that on the pages about the Hollywood celebrities. But really, the local stuff has been the most interesting. And yeah, it's a lot of it's gossip. It's political talk. So it's legitimate political discussion about the sheriff's race, the mayor's race, the police chief being a crook. I mean, there's things there where
PTA.
The PTA. It's things like that where it's things that you care about very locally. So it's sort of within your zip code. It's not, hey, the greater Chicago area should really concentrate more on education. It's my school is full of crooks, or hey, my child got sick off of the food in the cafeteria. Just random things. But it turns out people they have an expectation to participate online, especially now around the things they care about. And Topix is a great place to do that locally.
Now, what percentage of the people are creating the bulk of the news? For instance, on Wikipedia, I believe 1% of the contributors create about 67% of the content.
Well, let's see. So I would say I can't give you quite that same breakdown in terms of the 80-20 rule, but it turns out that the page views per visitor of people who read the news is about 2 page views per visitor. People who are reading commentary on topics are about 10 page views per visitor, and people who are posting are about 20 page views per visitor. So it seems to be something similar in the sense that most of the people who are posting are providing most of our page views.
And what's the demographic? Who's commenting, and also where are they commenting from? Is this an urban phenomenon or it's
that's a great
rural
question.
phenomenon?
I think that the Topix is primarily overrepresented outside of the major urban areas. And I think it's just because there's a matter of choice here. Like if you want to go off and comment on the news and you're here in San Francisco, there's like 100 startups within 5 blocks of you that want your comment. Yelp and Craigslist and all these places that take in commentary about life here in San Francisco. But if you live out in Pleasanton, or if you live even further up, even Auburn or something in California, or Caruthersville, Texas, or Columbia, Kentucky, these places they don't have as many choices. So I think that it's primarily people who are looking for local news, like overrepresented also as local news versus subject-based news. And it's people who are probably, they're not 18-24, but they're probably not over 60 either. So it's probably, that 30 to 50 range is really the sweet spot of our market, probably 30 to 45. And again, they live in a small town. They have, a desire to talk or communicate with the folks around them about the issues they care about. But it's not as much urban. We're underrepresented in urban areas and overrepresented in rural areas just because of the nature of what else is out there, I think.
Now, 60% of the content is user-generated. I believe last year when we last spoke, it was maybe 40%, maybe even 30%. Do you see that number going up to even 90%, 95%?
If present trends continue, that number is still, we're growing the user-generated commentary at about 5% per week. Right now we're at about, in April, I think we talked to you, last in April, and it was about 35,000 comments a day. Now we're at 60,000 comments a day, so we've almost doubled since April. And that's, again, growing at about, the number of comments on the site are growing at about 5% per week on average, and with 3 to 7%.
Now, are they commenting on a licensed piece of content that you've brought to the site or aggregated to the site, or are they creating their own articles and then commenting on them?
I would say it started out, 90% of it was people coming in and commenting on an article that we'd aggregated, and that was how we grew the topic areas. Now it's actually, I believe that numbers just crest 60% of our comments are original. They're things that people are starting up without a sort of a piece of content to anchor it to.
Right.
So it's now the majority of articles are written completely originally. They're not actually tagged off of original aggregated piece of content.
How are advertisers' comfort level with regards to those pages filled with just comments? Are you able to monetize those pages?
We currently monetize most of our site through AdSense, which is, I think, probably leaving some money on the table. But we actually monetize pretty well with AdSense. I mean, our effective CPM, I'm not sure. I think AdSense used to say we shouldn't talk about this, but I think we can talk about it now. Our effective CPM using AdSense is over $2, site-wide, including commentary. And that's huge, which means that if you look at run of site in most newspapers, they get 25 to 50 cents run of site. We're getting 10x that by just targeting effectively and using AdSense, which is a great program. I think what we need to do next is take the sweet spot, take all the tech inventory and some of our more higher quality pages and try to sell those directly, which is what I, as the new CEO, am trying to do at Topix, is trying to grow revenue. But I think that this is an evolving story. I think that a couple of years ago, advertisers would be running far and fast from any sort of user-generated content. But now, if you look at the situation, if you're an advertiser, I still think there are issues around this, but they have to really be kind of dragged over to see them, because for the most part, if you want to get to people now, this is the user-generated sites are a place where there's just a lot of traffic of the demographics trying to reach. I think an interesting question here is, if you used to be able to reach it was very hard to reach the 18 to 24-year-old consumer. It was just like that was the holy grail. Now you can go off and talk to one of 20 people to do that immediately. Facebook, MySpace, Pixo, Meebo, all these guys have a huge amount of inventory in that area. We, on the other hand, can get you back to that. If you want to sell a Chevy or a Ford F-150 pickup, you're going to have to get to the guy who lives in Pleasanton or Auburn. You're not going to get to the guy who lives in San Francisco as much. And that guy's probably like 35 to 40. We have that consumer. So I think that's a huge opportunity for advertisers, is to get local traffic and local folks. But yes, they do have to kind of deal with the fact that it is user-generated content. It is not all controlled completely.
So it would be nationally branded advertisers looking to find the local audience. That's who you would be targeting?
I think it's one of the bigger sweet spots for our target. The initial targeting for us will be to go after national advertisers that have a local presence, a particular Ford dealer, for example.
50 million page views a month, that's a lot of page views, and you generate only 40%, or actually license that content, 60% is generated without any cost to your company. So are you profitable, or at least cash flow positive?
We are not quite cash flow positive, and that's partially because, as I said, we probably have leaving some money on the table, which we shouldn't be leaving anymore. I think that we are on a path to that, and I think my job is in the next 12 to 18 months to make that happen. It's not a huge task. It's one of those things where hopefully our being profitable, we don't have that many people, and it doesn't cost us a whole lot to run the site. So I do believe that we can get to a cash flow positive situation within a short to medium term.
How does a story bubble up to the top? What makes a story relevant?
It's kind of interesting, because I would say we haven't spent a whole lot of time and effort on getting things up to the top per se. We do have a most popular stories page on Topix, and that's primarily, we measure it by commentary, essentially number of comments per hour over a 24-hour period. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but basically it's the most commented stories are how we measure popularity. But it turns out that you'll get stuff that's pretty random. It's an interesting list. You should check out if you like it, you should check out the most popular stories on Topix. But what we have is we have stories for every single zip code in the country. So just because everybody in Columbia, Kentucky is talking about something doesn't make it interesting for you. So unlike, say, a Reddit or a Dig type site where they're trying to basically create what are the top 10 stories for the entire country, what we've done is create the top 10 stories for every single town in the U.S. And I think it makes it sort of interesting to monetize, and it makes it kind of interesting to try to get a lot of focus on that, because we're diffused over every city in the country.
Right.
At the end of the day, though, it's kind of like an iceberg. There's a whole lot under the water, and such that when we are interesting in a town, we're very strongly in place. So that's kind of interesting.
It's probably very relevant to those particular people in that town, too. So, Chris, thanks for joining us. Good luck getting those advertisers.
Appreciate it.
I've been speaking with Chris Tolles. He's the CEO and founder of Topix. I'm Bambi Francisco.